I did give one prediction about child trafficking being exposed in March in Australia. Even I was named, and for someone like myself who's spoken about ritual abuse, that's extremely rare. To even acknowledge my existence is extremely rare.
Talking about how everyone has the ability to heal the inversion of everything that's been created in inversion by them. This year is more about like bringing in the construction crews to clear everything out, to bulldoze everything, to bring everything down. I don't have any fear. Nobody else should have any fear. So when we use that, then we're able to fully defeat them. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Spiritual Chat Live. Today, I have my beautiful friend, dear friend, Rachel Vaughan with us. We are going to be doing our prediction series. We started this in January this year, and we're going to be doing it on or around the solstice and equinoxes. So today, we are going to continue with our prediction series. So welcome, Rachel.
Hello, darling. Good to see you.
Good to see
This
you.
is exciting, all a bit different.
Yes, yes. So how has this week been for you?
Not much sleep. That's what I was saying, not a lot of sleep. Busy, busy. But I've been having a little bit of time off, not doing as many readings this week, just trying to recoup because February was really intense, a lot of stuff going on. So yeah.
How was the energy for you on it was the spring for us, but it was the fall for you, right? The equinox.
It was interesting. So I wouldn't say I was depressed or flat. I would say I just felt that the energy was dense. That's the only way I can describe it. So I felt fine, but
Yeah.
it felt like I just needed to rest.
Okay.
And then I found out that the we basically just entered the Satya Yuga, the golden age, literally from the 21st of March. And I know a lot of people have, different understandings. I had one woman come onto my Twitter and rah rah, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, but this is the way I see it. I've been looking at this, I've been predicting this golden age coming for years. I've been seeing these beautiful people turning to gold soul frequencies since 2015. It's all precursor to this time. So the belief is that the 21st of March was literally the end point of the Kali Yuga, which is the satanic age, and we have just entered the golden age. And if you look at all the other signs that are there, I mean, there's just a massive number of signs. We've just come into permanent harmony time of the ley lines. I don't know of any time that that's ever happened before in history. So if that isn't a sign of us, permanent harmony coming into the golden age, I don't know what else is a really good sign for that. And there've been so many different peoples who have prophesied this. So there were so many I had to write down them all, just the ones that I'm aware of. So number one, we've come into the age of Aquarius as well. So there's, and that also is an age of harmony, truth, integrity. We've also got the Book of Revelations talked about, the second coming of Christ. Well, that is all the people reaching a gold soul frequency. If you look at a lot of the iconic Greek paintings, he's got a gold aura. There's a reason for that. So we've seen this big swathe of humanity turning into this gold soul frequency as far as soul aura frequency is concerned. And we've also got where was it? That's Book of Revelations. There's also the Christ on Genos in Greek mythology, the Gulaldr in Norse mythology, and the Hopi Indians. We're all talking about this time coming. All these astrological alignments. I mean, it's phenomenal. So I felt when my dear friend Alex pointed out to me, she sent me this video. It was Elizabeth Peru, I think, who was talking about it, and then I looked it up, and there's a lot of other people who are speaking about it as well. It was just like, click, here we go. This is it. So, and it's interesting because on the 21st, I felt this, there was a density, there was this sense of just needing to rest because we're just about to embark on something new and big, and I knew I needed my time just to solidify.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I would say this week, I don't know, I got off my sleep schedule this week. Like I told you I was receiving I've been all my dreams this week. I've been astral traveling a lot and receiving a lot of I even had a dream of us doing this live. So if something I was telling you about in the dream that was validating a download I received that was also validating another like it was like a validation upon a validation upon a validation. So it was really strange. But I on on the solstice, on the equinox, I actually, I, I was doing like a meditation and I was tapping into the elements and all that. And I felt this like this whirlpool type energy. It felt really strong and it made me really dizzy. And I was like, whoa, something really, but it felt very grounded too with it. I didn't feel out of control or anything, but I could feel it almost felt like everything was clicking into place, if that makes sense.
Beautiful.
So it validates what you're saying.
Yeah, that is really lovely. And I love that too, because a lot of people don't recognize that the senses that we have, a lot of the psychic senses that psychics experience are somatic, they're feelings. They're not an idea jumps into your head and you know something's going to happen. It's a whole sense of whole range of senses all coming in. And it's quite hilarious. You know, you listen to, I think his name's Randy something or other, one of these guys that goes around and debunks psychics, and he'd say, or they say, I feel this and I feel that. Well, duh, that's because we do have these somatic feelings, and it comes into the body first, and that's how you would describe it. Because sometimes you'll see it in a vision, sometimes you'll feel it. Some people are clairaudient and they'll hear it. So there's a whole gamut of senses that are involved. So I love that you got that bodily
The
interpretation.
like, you know, I know you teach a psychic development course and I teach a spiritual development course, but the whole that everybody always says, I think, I think. You teach people to feel. So then when they begin to feel, and then when you do that inner soul work, you break down your heart wall, then you can get your heart and mind in alignment, and then thinking and feeling become the same. So when you do that, then when you say I feel and I think mean the same thing. And when we're just in tune, when we're saying I feel, we're in
Yeah,
tune with everything. So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And this is how we were before the advent of, technology in the last couple of hundred years. People were much more in tune with the earth, and, our native peoples across all the continents, had this connection with nature, and there was a symbiosis that would occur. And unfortunately, a lot of people are divorced from that now. So when you talk to people about grounding, they don't even necessarily understand what that means. And it just means bare feet on the earth, so that electrically, you're connected and you're grounded, just like your house is grounded with wires. But we need to have that. This is another reason why a lot of people have health problems if they sleep above ground. They're not close enough to the ground to get that grounding effect. Yeah, it is fascinating how complex we are. And when you relegate it to the sciences and they don't pay attention to those sorts of things, like, because they don't even recognize that there is a spirit, you know, it, we're ignoring a whole massive aspect of existence.
But with your Lay Love Down project, you're getting people to get back out into nature, to heal the ley lines, to connect again.
Mm.
I see people outside of Lay Love Down talking about ley lines. So I'm like, well, her and Ben they're really doing some big things. And Dale Holmes, he's talking about, I mean, everyone's talking about it, but like it's really getting out, I feel, to the
It
masses.
is, yeah. And there's always been a fascination, I think, but it's really coming to the forefront now. So, and there was I think it's also the book of Revelations. I think it's Revelation. So they talk about, the last fight is over the ley lines. So this is big. This is why all the town planners put all their bloody Masonic halls and churches and all of these things on ley lines to co-opt and to control it. I don't know if you are aware of, I've only just become aware of this, and I can't say it's 100% true yet because I've only just seen it, but apparently they found these pillars underneath the second or the middle pyramid in Giza that go down 2 kilometers. There's eight, or yeah, I think it was eight pillars with coils. So, a coil is for energy generation. And at the bottom of those pillars, this is all through some sort of LiDAR technology from space. Then there's these perfect 80-meter by 80-meter square boxes at the bottom, 2K down. I mean, that is pretty phenomenal. And that fits in with the free energy, perhaps, or a battery, that the pyramids had some sort of battery operation.
It's really weird that you say that because I was talking to Natasha one day and I told her, I said that I had this vision that there was, because we were talking about Orion and how they're, the Orion with the pyramids are lined up together. And I was telling her, I said, there's something underneath the pyramids. I said, I don't know what it
Uh-huh.
is. And I don't. And like even now with you saying that, I'm trying to put everything together. Like, wow, that's
It's just phenomenal. Yeah, just phenomenal. And you get a lot of people that say you go a certain distance below the earth and it gets very, very hot. So that could be another way that they're sort of harnessing the heat down there. But I mean, we're going back how many thousands of years? Were the pyramids supposedly built for five odd thousand years, something like that. So we had technology to dig down 2 kilometers, these enormous pillars. I mean, these pillars are huge. So, and these perfect square boxes, 2K down. I mean, there's other structures down there as well, apparently. Fascinating stuff.
this is like blowing my mind right now because I'm it's like connected. And I was saying it was something to do with Orion, and I whoa, it's weird.
So if
So
we're getting that sort of technology that's able to do that, well, can someone please, do that for the Edwardstown tunnels just to help me out? Because they're there, they're 100% there. I've proven that they're there, but people still say, oh, you haven't got footage of being inside them, and I'm not going in there again.
oh,
But I was told that that technology existed in 2018 when I first started speaking about those tunnels that I was trafficked through as a child. I mean, if they can do that elsewhere, they can do it. They can do it for little old Adelaide. It wouldn't be that hard. So the secrets are coming out because their technology is there to bring it out.
well, supposedly there's like underground cities with those
Yeah,
tunnels. Tunnels connect to. So I don't know. This year we know is the year of truth. So I feel
yeah,
there's so much. There's there's a lot. Like I told you and everyone in January, the tsunami of truth is coming. It's been building, and the first wave I feel is going to be coming in a matter of weeks.
it really is. It's ramping up. Absolutely. Yeah, and we've seen a lot already, and some of the predictions that we've already given have come true, which is really nice.
Yes.
I did give one prediction about child trafficking being exposed in March in Australia and New Zealand. And I wanted to say at the time, this was in January, I think 19th of January when we recorded our first predictions. I wanted to say it had relationship to my particular case, but I didn't want to jinx it. And it has come out. So the Stansbury sinkhole where the three Beaumont children are buried has finally hit the mainstream media, which all over the news, in the newspapers, very unusual. Even I was named, and for someone like myself who's spoken about ritual abuse, that's extremely rare. For to even acknowledge my existence is extremely rare. And my brother's been working very, very hard on getting all this to come out. So the fact that that happened in March, the spotlight is now on that. I've called my father Australia's Epstein. One of the articles that named me, well, the first time I was ever named in an article in the local propaganda rag, the only one we have in South Australia called the Advertiser, they've got the Epstein name twice. One's a reporter, and one's actually an article directly below the article that names me is talking about Epstein. So my father was Australia's Epstein. I'm just waiting for this information about the JFK files. And my father was a spy during that time. He knew all about Harold Holt, one of our prime ministers who went missing. He knew a lot. He was an ASIO operative. So I I'm just waiting to see his name pop up there somewhere because he knew all about why President Kennedy was murdered. He told me about it in the 80s. Yeah, so it's coming up.
And they had all the JFK files were released and all of the stuff that was in them, which most of the stuff that was in there, a lot of us already knew because if you've been down the rabbit holes or if you've had any kind of thing going on in your life where you've had to go down those rabbit holes, you knew, you knew.
Mhm.
So yeah. Um, so do you want to give like lately the Schumann resonance thing has been insane this week and interfering with sleep and all of that. So I've had people reaching out to me with their symptoms that they're having and all that. I want to give like little tips again just to help people through it. It's going to
Got
ramp.
to get the app. I have to get the app because I wasn't aware. So that explains some of the feelings that I've been having as well. Because every time I get these weird sort of bodily sensations, it's usually because the Schumann resonance is going off. So that's another sign. There's another, bit of evidence that we've come into a different frequency, a higher frequency, and coming into that Satya Yuga. Um, So with this lot, I would say sleep is really important because it's so disturbed at the moment. And I would say grab the sleep when you can. If you're not working 40 hours a week and you know and you can have a nap during the day, consider doing that because you never know when you're going to get a download during that period. And it might mess up your sleep, it might not. You know, most of the time our sleep cycles are about 45 minutes. So you can usually grab a nap for about 45 minutes and wake up refreshed and not feeling, as that horrible feeling when you wake up and you've had a nap during the day because you slept too long. This is why little children wake up really grumpy after their midday nap because you feel yucky waking up and it's daytime and oh my gosh. So that's a suggestion that I would make, and make sure it's reasonably short. Um, and a lot of the stuff we've spoken about before, getting out in nature, getting grounded, being around bodies of water if you're feeling down, playing, finding time to play, and really good nutrition, excellent nutrition. And I've got again, I'm getting in April, we're going to get a lot of the heavily manufactured foods are just going to crash. So I had a vision this morning of going into my local supermarket and seeing just, all of the manufactured food aisles, just, price reductions on everything because no one's going to want to buy it. I heard something recently that there are 10,000 chemicals added to American foods, and only 400 of those are not outlawed by European regulators. So you've got 9,600 additives over there that are so bad for people that in Europe they're banned.
Yeah.
And that's all going to come out. So I felt like that was coming up in April.
What else you got?
So I think that's the reason why I was getting, with the Ascension symptoms, just to keep it down. Interestingly, I know things have heated up again in the war in Israel. I got that there might be an end to that in April. That's a big call, and I'm not taking sides, and I'm not.
Right.
But I got that quite clearly, and I'm really hoping that that is true. But I got that for April as well. I did predict last time that there was going to be talk about food security issues in my state in particular. There's been a lot of issues around a drought that we've been having. And funnily enough, not to toot my horn, but supposedly it was going to be projected and we weren't ever going to get any rain. And they'd keep doing that, and the local minister wouldn't give money for all of this donated hay and feed for livestock, wouldn't give money for the petrol or the diesel to share that out to the farmers. Just disgusting. These trucks full of hay were all just sitting idle while people's breeding stock is dying of starvation. And this minister's saying, well, just cull your animals. Well, you can't cull your animals if that's your breeding stock. How are you supposed to ever survive? And this is the whole thing they're doing across the world, trying to get rid of all of the food. I did an interview with a gentleman called Giles Bryant for Kinder Sound on, I think it was the 18th of March. And I predicted then it was going to rain in a couple of days, and it started raining the next day. So, and it's record rainfall. So, not everybody in South Australia has that record rainfall, but in the north, and along the south coast and in other areas in Adelaide, it did rain. So I think that drought is broken now. We're going to see a lot more rain. I get a sense that whatever kind of manipulation they're doing with the weather is really starting to fall apart. They're just not going to have the ability to do that. I also got so there's going to be a real push so we're going to hear a lot about food scarcity, particularly in Australia and many countries. They're going to say there's no food, rah, 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 rah. People are just going to go out and grow their own veggie patches. We've got people, in supposed elite circles saying people, growing your own veggie patch should be outlawed. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They just make it so painfully obvious. And they are trying to bring in regulations to stop people from growing their own food. I mean, if ever there was proof that the government hates us, that is it.
No. Hey.
You must eat the poison. I also got big stuff around the relationship between these things and these turbo cancers. I got that really coming out in April. I also got a certain leader in the UK might be deposed in the month of April also. So there's a big crescendo going on there. I don't want to name him because I don't want to get this struck off. I I got that this manufactured food that no one will want to buy very soon because they'll understand what's actually in it will just be handed out to people. So, and I see a lot of it being dumped, and I see that, the places where they dump it, it has to be for toxic. It has to be places where you could only put toxic stuff. So there's actually going to be an understanding that you can't put that near a watercourse because the food itself is so toxic. So they're the sorts of things I'm seeing for April. Oh, I also got interesting. I got the modeling industry being exposed with regards to all of the anorexia and a lot of them are told to take drugs to stay thin, but also that it's a form of trafficking, that they're actually being used, the models are actually being farmed out to people for abuse. One other thing I got was that we get to the keys to the vault in April, which I thought was really interesting. So I got that before I heard about this Giza pyramid thing with these pillars. It could be that the vaults are those two boxes at the bottom, but it could also relate to the Vatican. And we've had a lot of talk about a particular head of the Vatican being very unwell. Now suddenly he's gone home and he's well. I think that April might be a time where we say, I think he was gone a long time ago, but they might actually recognize that he has gone in the month of April. I also got the textile industry being in the spotlight with regard to human slavery and child slavery as well. The symbolism that we've been seeing for the last 4 years, like really obvious, I think that will be splashed out again. That's just going to become much bigger again during the month of April. So it's just going to be hammered. A lot of the actual proof around these things and what they're doing, particularly the mRNA aspect, that's going to come out in April as well. And I've been looking up bootstrapping because I didn't understand what it was, and it came up in the first prediction series. And apparently that is actually a big thing at the moment. People are learning how to use different ways to fund themselves with business. So I got a lot more of that. Um, so that's what I got for April. Did you want to say what you got for April?
Yeah. I'm just going to give like a little warning for what I've received because mine is April and May, and it's and again, like I was telling you before we started here, is I feel there's like a mirroring that's going to be going, or there's like a juggling that April and May is going to be kind of similar for September and the end of the year, and they could bounce back and forth as time goes on in the year. What I've received um, for April and May, and literally it's going to be starting in like a matter of days. I mean, because April's almost here. It is a massive exodus. It's the biggest mass exodus that we have ever encountered. And I know a lot of people are probably going to be saying, "Oh, it's the people that got the," and and perhaps it is, but what I have received from this is that it is that, but it's also people that they have chosen this because of the earth evolving and where we are moving to with this ascension and the 5D. The earth is going through renewal, which Natasha Darling, she actually sent me, if I can pull it up real quick, she sent me something today that actually confirmed this, that she was saying, see if I can find it real quick, because she was saying that she had a dream the other night that the word death was written on an art piece on the left side, and that there was a being standing in front of her saying "death by crocodile," and she said, "This is the truth," and the crocodile is translated in her understanding as earthlight. So she said essentially they are saying death by earthlight, meaning the earth is reclaiming energy back for renewal, which means beings that die only contribute to the renewal of earthlight. And we're going through a transitional time. So this like made a lot of sense to me with what I've been shown with what's coming for April and May. And there'll be like it will dwindle off in the first couple of weeks of June, and then it will pick back up in September, and it will be another big exodus. But it's going to be big. It's massive. There will be a lot of souls going home. And when she told me this, like it made sense. I knew I was told that in my download, in my dream, that it was their purpose to do this for them to go home.
Yep.
Um, they are serving their purpose. It is for the higher good of Earth, is why they're going home. So while it will be sad, it will there is joy in it as well. Because what I was also shown was a big storm cloud that was like literally sitting on the months of April and May. And a lot of us, most of us that are here in this chat right now, we're in the eye of the storm. So we're calm, we're cool. We might be feeling some of the energies and stuff, but for the most part, we're super chill about everything that's going on. But if we look into the storm, we can see the chaos, we can see the fear, we can see everyone swirling around into the storm. Those are the souls that will be going home. And there will be some, what I was shown, there are some that are in the eye of the storm that are choosing to go home, but not many. It's mostly
Okay.
in the out, in the chaos of the storm. And that's what's going to help calm down all of this stuff. So all of these things that we're seeing that are crumbling, that are ending, that we talked about in our January live, where we talked about, 3-letter agencies falling. I told you in February about the dream I had with the, how do I say it without, pharmaceuticals and all of that was I had the word in my dream that was farm, and it was HARM was lifting up away from the P, and the P was on the ground, and the rest was lifting up. So that's the harm is going to be going away from how we treat and heal ourselves. So everything old is falling away. The other thing that I had a dream in February, I thought I was receiving dates, but it was numbers. And then I was putting two and two together with the number stuff. And this is where I'm going to start talking really fast, I know, and I'll try not to talk really fast. But like I was shown 3 and 4, 3 and 7. So I kept thinking those were dates. And while Cyclone Alfred did come during that time where I was saying there was something and I was feeling there was some kind of storm or something with Australia and like in the Ring of Fire, it that wasn't it. What I was being shown was what I learned in Georgina Grace's course about numbers. 3 is the number of truth. 4 is about foundation. So the 3 is bringing forth the truth and crumbling the old foundations. So therefore, new foundations are being built on a foundation of truth. That's where the 3 and the 4 are. The 3 and the 7, 3 and 7 back each other up. 7 is about having the evidence. It's about having the proof to back up the truth. 3 and the 7 are working together. This is everything that's coming out. So everything that you're talking about, all this stuff that's going to be coming out in April and May and so forth throughout the year, here it is. That's what I'm being shown, those numbers.
Yeah.
So they're making sense to me with what I was being shown. Then I had a dream where we were doing this live and I was talking to you about this stuff, but I was also talking about how everyone has the ability to heal the inversion of everything that's been created in inversion by them, by the evil, the cults, the satanic stuff. So everyone has a birth date and a soul name that has numbers. So when you do the
Mm.
soul work on yourself and you heal yourself, you raise your vibration, you raise the world's vibration, you also heal those numbers. So you're
Yeah.
doing all the healing. So and we and when you talk about like the symbolism and all of this, like people are so hung up. I get it. Like you're awake and you understand that there's all of this symbolism. There's this symbol means this or this or this. Now we have to work on inverting that because those symbols didn't mean that before and they're not bad. So
Yeah.
we can't continue forward on living with, because here's another message that I received in a dream this week. I've been very busy in my sleep. um, was that, well, most of us have had very traumatic, horrifying things happen to us in our life. From this point forward, were to talk about those things as a record keeper in the future so that we don't inflict fear or terror moving forward. We are telling our story as a means, like, like Native Americans or indigenous people did before, where they would tell you stories so that it would prevent it from happening in the future as a point of wisdom. So we have to remember to do that. And I think of Max Lowen, of how when she tells stories, or even you, when you guys tell your stories about what's happened, you talk about things, but you don't try to terrify people or like shock
No,
people. That's not the point. You get your message
no.
across and you help wake people up. And that's the point. Record
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah. Well, it's. I learned to do that also because when it's really emotional, people can't handle it. And you need to get that information out there because for me, it's put a spotlight on it to make it so obvious that the authorities can't keep it hidden anymore, which is exactly what's happened and why they had to talk about the Stansbury sinkhole with the Beaumont children. What's really interesting when you started out and you started talking about this mass exodus, I have also been seeing that. And I'm not refuting what you're saying at all, but the use of the storm cloud, when I see these mass exoduses, and it's been happening for the last few years as well, I see black clouds of all of these souls, these dark souls, and my throat caught as I said that want to be released. They want to go, they don't want to go to hell. They want to go back to source and start again. And it always looks like a storm cloud to me. It's
Yes.
really interesting. So what you might be also seeing is this mass exodus of all these dark souls that now that the Kali Yuga has ended, or the Satanic Age has definitely ended, they don't want to be here anymore. Number one, because it's not a frequency that they can stand. It's a horrible frequency for them. They can either stick on the surface or they can go underground or they have to leave.
Yes.
Sticking on the surface is just unbearable for them. Um, and as an example of that, when you watch haunting programs like, paranormal haunting type programs, the darkest, deepest, most terrifying demonic entities are usually at the very base levels of penitentiaries, hospitals, morgues. They like to be down the bottom, underground. So, these entities, they will be sloughing off. The earth is sloughing them off. She's getting rid of them. She's releasing. She's saying goodbye. And there's a lot of souls, we were talking about this before, that are getting to a frequency that's high enough where they become what's described as like a death doula. So they are actually there to open doorways for these entities to go to the dimensions they exist or should exist in if they're willing to go, or they go back to source and start again. So, this is all happening at the same time that people are getting these incredibly high frequency soul levels in order to do that work. It's all symbiotic. So again, even though we live in the Western world, we live inside houses, we're not necessarily grounded, we're not out in nature all the time, we still are fulfilling our soul purposes on many levels, working very hard to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting
I
because I did also get the zombie apocalypse stuff like that I was programmed with. I got that coming around again in April. So it's interesting you talked about that as well. But that could again be part of the agenda. I know that I was programmed to say those things. And I know that was definitely what they were trying to do with this, but I don't think it's going to work the way that they hoped it would.
know. And I'm glad you said that. Like, because I was I was telling my mom this before we started the live. I was saying that, like, how we feel when we're around lower vibrational people and we can't tolerate it, that's how the lower vibrational energies are feeling around us, because we're
Yeah.
raising the vibration and they can't tolerate it. And so like you said, everyone thinks that these dark souls are going to hell. No, they're going to, I mean, the ones, so I guess I should say that there's ones that don't feel like they're worthy to go back to source, I guess. So they'll go to like what I call the holding place, the blackness, for a bit, and then when they feel worthy, then they'll go back to source. And like, because we all serve a purpose here, even though we want to like say that person was so horrific, so horrible, like they're going to hell, they'll be tortured. Well, they they'll self-torture if they don't feel worthy to go back to source, but everyone goes back to source, except there are like those certain type of entities, because I've seen them personally. I don't think those go to source. There's like certain
What
type
I've
of beings there. I don't know where they go. But I know I don't think they go there.
Well, a lot of them would try and stay in those in-between dimensions, but now that we've ascended to that fifth dimensional frequency with the permanent harmony of the ley lines at the end of last year, they can't really exist in the fifth dimension either. So they're going to have to go somewhere. So when I say these dark souls go back to source, what usually happens is they will never exist as the same 100% soul frequency that they were before. They go back into the pool, and then a tiny fraction of that might go into another conglomeration of soul energy to be a different soul, basically. So it's a soul death, but
Yes,
it's better than being tortured for the rest of their existence in a hellish realm.
right.
So it's like I guess it's in a way it's like a form of suicide, but energy can't disappear, and it can only transmute. So it goes back to source for transmutation.
Yes.
One of the reasons I don't want to go back to source a lot of the time, and they will stick around on an earth plane and have to sucker off the energy of the living, which is a vampiric sort of existence and pretty depressing for them too. A lot of people who are diagnosed with schizophrenia have these attachments. They dread altruism. They dread becoming light, which is hilarious because it's the absolute opposite of what we would want to aspire to. But going back to source is still better than them going to a hellish realm. It doesn't mean they get away with it. It means they no longer exist as that entity, as that energy. And I believe with that, some of the memory would go as well. So, I mean, the memory of what they have done wouldn't leave the Akashic, but it would leave their DNA memory when they come back into a physical being. If they decide to come back into a physical being, that's my understanding.
So so the dark beings, the dark entities that are here that are going to leave, they go back to source. Because when you were talking, I was seeing like a kind of like a firework when they were going into source. So when you were saying that they would be disintegrated or done, how is that part of them? Because like when we come here, it's just a portion of our soul that's here because we
Yeah.
exist. Our higher self is there. We're other places. So is there still another part of them that's somewhere else that could come back? Not as a dark being, but like, you know,
That's a really good question. I just got a sense that it was their whole being that ended up back in source, but I also see as they go back into source, they do spark.
yeah,
Very interesting. I got exactly the same vision.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, yeah.
So
Should we look at May?
yeah, May was for me was this pretty much the same like this because it was just this big cloud that was sitting on April and May, and it
Yeah.
was it's just going to be a very emotional time, but there's also going to be a lot of joy. A lot of people are going to be feeling joy that they've not ever really felt, I don't think, before. And it's going to be kind of shocking to people, I think, to be having
I
this.
think I think you're right in many ways in that there could be a mass exodus by choice, which is not something I would ever advocate for anybody, dark or light, where those that recognize that they are exposed now will go by their own hand. And there may also be this understanding of what's been happening with these things and that it's just been a massive operation. Some of those people might also go, can't deal with this anymore too much and go by their own hand, which again is horrific. So that, I certainly didn't want to deny that that's a possibility. I think it's unfortunately, I always saw that there was going to be something like that at some point.
Other thing was because I have been receiving not just this week. It kind of slacked off and it picked back up this week again, but I've had people reaching out to me that maybe I haven't heard from in a while, or, um, people are telling me they want to go home, or they're talking to me and they're like saying, well, if this doesn't change or what, and they're not saying goodbye, but in the way they're talking, they're saying goodbye. And so I felt like I was receiving validation with this because I think
Yeah,
like their soul is telling me, and I think that that's another, and I don't, the thing is I, I don't think that there's, with this ascension and everything, I feel like we're being healed and we're being upgraded. So like, I don't think this will matter. So I think
no,
we'll let that get in
agree.
your head. It,
Yeah,
it won't matter. Even though I know there's
it's
a lot of things that's happened and I'm not discrediting that and I'm not saying it's not real because I know it is, but I'm just saying that I think um, it's part of the evolving and everything that we're going through with the ascension.
Yeah, it's big. What's going on is really, it's just massive. It's huge. And, we haven't really had something like this with this number of souls on Earth before. So it just makes it that much more intense. And I'm not going to say cataclysmic, but definitely intense. But this is the thing that also that I wanted to point out. A lot of scholars, religious individuals from the Hindu faith believe that at the end of the Kali Yuga, there is a cataclysm that brings us into the Satya Yuga. I don't feel that we're going to have anything that's hugely cataclysmic apart from what we've just described. And again, on a soul level, who are we to say that people cannot leave and go off and do whatever they want to do on a soul level? It is a choice. So on that note, I did see an attempt, not to bring this into anything depressing, because I still am immensely optimistic. We have literally come into something very, very positive, something to be rejoicing over. But I did see attempts around, I believe, some sort of virus around horses, and I'm assuming that would be Hendra, something along those lines. Now, again, this could be South Australia centric. That's where I live, because we've got fruit bats here that spread this disease, and they are in plague proportions at the moment. And it's interesting how the RSPCA, which is like your, what do you call it? PETA, whatever they call it over there. And the government, are protecting these animals, and they're beautiful. I love flying foxes. They're absolutely gorgeous. Fruit bats are adorable, but they're in really large proportions, like they're destroying food crops and things as well. So, but they're being utterly protected at the moment. So again, some of my predictions might be South Australia centric to my location, because I'm noticing this at the moment. So I just got this sense of this supposed outbreak, but it will be so short-lived, it will be ridiculous. And it's like the last time they try and do something like this. I also feel that the three-letter agencies that push this stuff have no funding and no money left to be propelling these stupid ideas. I got more of the destruction of packaged foods. I also got interesting, as much as we're talking about that it's going to be interesting over the next couple of months, I did get people becoming more optimistic. And I think that is the frequency. I don't think it's necessarily what's going on around us. It's this feeling of things have changed. It's getting better. There's something to be hopeful for. It's not just, we're not under control anymore. We are free. I got, interestingly, and again, I'm not political and I'm not saying I'm taking any kind of sides, but I saw an ousting of a particular political leader in the Ukraine situation in the May period. I didn't get a lot for May, but in June I got inflation is down in most countries, like big time. And I got debt forgiveness big time as well. So there's going to be so many people that they're going to want to foreclose on that. They're just going to give up on that. And I think that the truth around the fact that the usury system is completely illegal will just be everywhere. And people will actually start to think about, I think there might also be talk about the abolishing of taxes in certain countries, or bring it right down to virtually nothing. So in June, I've been waiting for this to happen in June for years. So I'm hoping this is the right year. It feels like it's the right year. I also got a particular high-level official in the UK, might also be on the way out in June. So this is started the, we've seen some dominoes already go down in the despots leaving certain particular positions. But that's what I got was this particular individual goes down in June. I also got it being really, really cold in the Southern Hemisphere for that winter period. But what I got for that was that just brought all this attention to the fact that they're trying to blot out the sun, the gates, and idiots like those. And so that, this is the last time they can play games like that, because that'll get attacked. So again, the weather manipulation is exposed in a big way during that cold snap. And that's, I think, about as much as I had as far as my predictions were concerned for those couple of months. Yeah, did you?
Well, for May, like I feel like there's a couple, there's one a particular like mid-month in May where there's a false flag coming. There's possibly two, one more towards the end of the month. but May, I felt this for a while, like even into like last year, where I felt there was some false flag stuff that was gonna, because it's desperation is what it feels like. And distraction tactics, of course, to create fear, because that joy and that stuff that you were talking about of people feeling hopeful, they're going to try and take that away, but it's not going to work. So everyone just needs to remember that when the
Yeah.
if that happens, and I'm going to say if because I want to cancel it out. I'm always happy when
Yeah. Yeah.
bad things don't happen, then I say. um, for me, I in January I had talked about how I saw the gold coming in towards the end of June and going into July. I still see that. So
Excellent.
for us here in the northern hemisphere, it's summer in June, July, and August, and I honestly I saw the summer, or I see the summer as being very calm.
Mm.
Um, like I don't see a lot happening, and September picks up. September's got through the end of the year has a lot going on, but the summer months it feels like there's cause for celebration starting at the end of June, going into July, and there's feels like there's lots of family celebrations. There feels like there's a lot to be celebrating about. Um, and like you said, it feels like families are able to come together more, which makes me feel like there's more money for families. So, and I have seen taxes going away. I have seen a lot of this stuff going away where um, everyone has more money. Everyone has like the ability to buy homes and things. Everything gets easier. That will come in more towards the end of the year, going into 2026 and onward. This year is more about like bringing in the construction crews to clear everything out, to bulldoze everything, to bring everything down. So everybody's wanting the change and stuff, but we've got to like we've got to take everything down and clear everything out before we can begin rebuilding. But it is coming.
Oh,
So
it so is. And yeah, that's right. In the first prediction series, I did get that big celebration in June. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. So and it goes into July as well. Just massive celebrations. And to me, that felt worldwide.
yes, yeah, it didn't just feel for here. It does feel
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But the weather manipulation stuff. So for me, like I feel like they're attempting to do it, but I feel like there are so many light workers now working together that whenever they try to do this stuff, because just like with Alfred, there was so many of us working for that, and I know they still got rain and they had flooding, but it could have been a lot worse. And I feel like
Exactly.
with all of us
Yeah.
working on these storms, or we're working to heal the earth, we're working to do, uh, we're much more powerful than they are, and they know that, and so then they get scared. So, and I don't have any fear, and nobody else should have any fear. So when we use that, then we're able to fully defeat them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The
And I think
collective
mom,
consciousness is what always drives things. And for people who might be watching this and have no idea what we're talking about,
right,
the whole Hollywood system exists with MK Ultra bred for purpose slaves, as our supposed idols, so that they can do these projections and harness the collective consciousness towards something awful. And how many zombie movies have we seen in the last 20 years? It's just friggin' everywhere because that's what they wanted to channel us into. And again, unfortunately, I played into that because that was what I was programmed to do by my father as a child. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they will try and play on it. So, when we all have a collective idea and understanding that we do not want those storms or cyclones or fires or anything like that to take over, collectively we can prevent it from happening. And I think it's important for us to remember to engage with the earth when we're thinking about those things as well and asking for her help to prevent these things from going on because it's her property. This is her body that we're all sort of fighting over. And one thing I understand very powerfully from my spirit guides and my higher self is if we do not ask, we cannot receive. So we ask for that help. We always qualify it with it if that's for my highest good or the highest good of all or the highest good of the earth. And then there's really very little that can go against us.
and then being open to receive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know
Absolutely.
for the longest time I was asking and then I forgot to be open to receive. So, so
Beautiful wisdom. Absolutely.
um, the only other thing that I have is like with September is I was shown the month of September had all of these bricks. They were brown bricks that was covering the whole month going into October. And then as November, there was less bricks and December was less bricks going down. And I feel this is pertaining to Hollywood and like everything in general, but because I was shown, I don't even like to say his name, um, you know, Diddy, the big him. He's like he's the main person, but there's like so many around him, and I don't know if the bricks are symbolizing that they're all being boxed in, they're all being bricked in, literally, like um with all of the evidence, everything from now till then will be building up to that, and then the evidence will be there, and like literally like Hollywood, it's all falling now anyway.
Yeah.
And the fires and all of that stuff is they're trying to destroy evidence. We've had some fires here in Florida, down in Miami, where he has a home. There's other celebrities down there that have homes. They're trying to destroy stuff. They can try and destroy stuff all they want, but it still happened. So, the
Exactly.
truth is going to come out. So, and I think, again, the end of the year with the Exodus thing happening, but for years now, I've always seen from September through the end of the year, there's always been like a bigger exodus than normal of any other time of year. So I just think it's like a continuation of years
And that
past.
actually is common. Like you'll get more heart attacks in December. So
Yeah.
that's actually a much, it's a common thing. And, we are in a 9 year, 2 + 2 + 5 makes up nine. It's a finalization year. So also makes perfect sense that this is the year that we go out of the Kali and we go into the Satya and we start this, this new frequency. Um, I I think you're right with that. But I don't think ever. So when the attempt was to get rid of 6 billion of us and leave 500 million, I always got it flipped on its head, and we might lose 500 million. And I didn't like that number, so I just threw that away and I said maybe 50 million. But it's probably looking more like what they showed me, and they showed me this years ago, like 2020. I didn't like it, but I think that's probably what you're talking about. So we might actually finally understand. Maybe it's been happening, and it's certainly been happening a lot in the last 4 or 5 years, but maybe we'll finally get the true numbers of what that is in those months. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Maybe that the mass exodus for April and May is not literally that, like that we're not going to have like souls we know leaving. Maybe it's more of like the truth coming out about what's really happened.
it makes sense with what they were showing me too. So I keep being shown that this year, like all of the stuff about this just comes out flooding to the point by November we're sick of the information. It's just too much. It's just people, the cognitive dissonance will start to take over with some people who around about 10 to 20% of people will never be able to can handle this. They'll never be able to understand it. They'll never be able to get their head around it. The spiritual aspect, all the atheists are not going to be able to get on board with the fact that we've been run by a cult. They won't be able to handle that. So, there's going to be a certain number that just will not be able to handle that and do whatever they do because they can't deal with it. Um, but I'm always hopeful. We can shift anything with the consciousness and the belief system that we have. It's really interesting. As you were talking about the bricks coming down, someone in the comments said, can we talk about 15-minute cities? And I'm wondering if that was also part of what you're saying, because they were trying to wall us in and that will disintegrate.
Yes.
That was another thing that I was seeing for I saw in the last prediction series on 19th of Jan, I talked about, everything smart kind of being pulled apart, like, and being attacked. And then we've had all these attacks on smart cars, on the Teslas. So, and it was in that right timing. So I'm quite confident by the end of the year, anything smart is going to be sitting on the person's verge, waiting for someone to come pick it up and take it down the dump.
I've every time I see someone where something happens and they're like, well, they're trying to put a smart city here. They're trying to, and I'm like, I always say cancel, cancel, cancel. Like, I say I do not consent, I do not comply, because I have never, and I'm going to be bold here and say this, I have never seen the smart cities happening because
No.
I just never saw them materializing. I just never did.
Well, look what's happening in the UK where they're trying to do it. They put the bollards in, people remove them, they put in the cameras, people remove them. I mean, there's a whole groundswell of these amazing young individuals who are going out and saying, no, not in my town. You're not doing that. They've forgotten how powerful we are. We fight back.
That's right.
So they also don't have the funding to push this forward because you guys are working out where all the money's been going. So, and I think that that's going to happen in every country. And that's not political. That is because it's the time of truth, and because there are other energies that are working with us that are outside of this domain, this dimension, that are bringing the truth forward. We're not having to do this on our own. We can't just wait for them to do it. We have to do it because, like I said, we have to ask for it for them to act. But we have got a lot of help, and that's what's going on here. It's not just because someone's got a political leaning. It's not about that. It's about the truth coming out for whatever reason.
Agree.
It might be about gaining power for a certain side, but the exposure is what actually makes life better.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So, are you ready to take questions?
Yes.
Who has questions for Rachel or myself or both, or any comments, questions? Raise your hand, and then our lovely Asta, who's moderating, will bring you in the spotlight.
Thank you very much, Asta, for being here today, beautiful soul.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Everybody being shy today?
It looks like it. There were some questions coming up in the chat. Do you have any questions from the chat?
I never can do two things at once.
I think you got them, Rachel, because there was that one question from Kristen, which we answered. Yeah, that's it. Well, Nina, have you got your hand up, darling?
Yes, I cannot figure out how to raise my hand on my laptop. So yes, I have two questions, if that's okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, so one question is how, when we do, like you were talking about entities and there's attachments to people. And so how is it that someone would know that they have one? And how is it the easiest way to clear them?
Okay. Do you want to take this one first, Angie?
And well, I mean, I may see things differently than you. We both can answer it if you want to.
Yeah.
Usually when I see someone that has attachments, I can tell in their aura if there'll be like a darkness, a blackness that's like sitting in the outer aura. How I can clear those using energy work, where I can clear out from the aura. Now, this is where I was telling you where I've done work on people before where I've seen things that I don't know what they are. They look like demons, where they had like a tail, or and this person had been like sexually abused as a child and stuff. They had grown up and they had a lot of stuff. And this was a particularly nasty entity that was attached to this person. And I had a hard time getting it to go, but I had to send it to where it needed to go. Now, when I say that, I don't send it to source. I'm always just shown like a light, a colored light, and I send it through there. And then I don't know what happens to it after that. I just know that I'm shown the light or the door, like a lighted, it's not an actual door. It's just like a light that appears. I send that being, that entity or whatever through that, and then it disappears, and I know I'm done. So, but you can protect yourself, and you can feel it too. Like if you can't see things like how I can see things, then you can feel it with someone. Like you can feel that energy. It kind of feels like there's you might get nauseous, you might have a headache, you might have like just a really uncomfortable feeling, like you feel like someone's watching you. You might feel like you've got like sandpaper on your nerves at times too. It's just a really uncomfortable feeling. You can use sage to protect yourself. Sage kind of stinks sometimes. Palo Santo is really good for those types of beings. Using like sound bells or Tibetan bowls, the angelic chakra bowls as well are good. And I also use like this. I use the selenite wand where I will just go around,
Mm.
and I call it icing my aura. And I will go around and around, and I just kind of smooth it and clear it out. And then I go around my body like several times, usually 9 times, because 3, 6, 9. So
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I do the same thing. I use a tuning fork tuned to A, and then I'll tap it and I'll just run it around my body, paying particular attention to the back, because they like to come in from that point because we don't notice them as much. Some of the other signs, everything that Angie said makes perfect sense, but some of the other signs are you might suddenly have intrusive thoughts that you would normally never have. Like you want to harm yourself or harm others, or feeling angry and hateful and vengeful, which if that's unusual for you, you might think, well, that's something that's sort of, coming in. It can be very annoying because some people like to feel powerful in the psychic world. You and I have to obviously discuss this by telling people that they can see something on you, but you can't see it because they know everything. And you've got to be really careful around those sorts of people because it's all about power for them and control. And they can tell you, so that the idea with that is to feel in, how does that person feel to you? Do you feel comfortable around that person? Do they feel like they know what they're talking about, or does it feel like they're trying to control you or get money from you? Because unfortunately, there are so many unscrupulous people that work in our profession. It is so infuriating. It gives us all a bad name. So I'm looking at your aura and it's stunning, and I am not seeing anything attached to you.
Thank you. Okay,
Beautiful.
that's
And
great. And I appreciate that. That is very helpful. And then my other question is when someone's about to pass, I know that there's a lot of things, that people like always go to the light, but from my understanding, that possibly now is a construct or a trap from the dark to kind of do the cycle all over again of reincarnation. And so what is it would you say to someone that is about to pass? Like what can they expect? And then what would they do? Like, I'm assuming that maybe they shouldn't be going to the light, or they need to bypass it and go through the tunnel and then find the light, or not quite sure.
well, for me, when I see people pass into another dimension or see them in another dimension, I don't see them in a light. To me, it looks like an earthly existence because it's what we're used to and what I would be able to understand and translate. So I don't see a light, but that's me. I don't know. Other people might have a different experience.
Okay.
well, I can tell you from my experience when I died. Because I had Lyme disease, and I was dying, and I did die. Jesus was in my room all day one day, and the next thing I know, I'm in the garden. I had seen like a light in my room like prior, where I thought my parents were opening my door because it was that bright, but I wasn't like feeling like I needed to go into the light or anything like that. But when I actually went to the garden, there was no light, there was no tunnel. I just was in the garden with Jesus. And when I sat with Jesus, there was like a lake behind us. And on the other side of that lake, there was a big light where there was a bunch like souls were going into that light. Now, I talk to Jesus every day. He's like my main guide. And he wouldn't, I was given a choice. I could stay and I could go in to that light, or I could come back here. And so I didn't have any fear. I didn't feel like I wasn't supposed to go into the light. So I've heard things about what you're talking about. For me, it's been probably 2 years now. I haven't seen the veil that's been over the earth. The veil was gone for me. I know Rachel said it was officially gone like last September.
September, yeah.
And Max Lowen, she had seen it gone like what, a year and a half before that?
Yeah, something like that.
So we've all like, the veil's gone. I don't feel they have that control anymore.
Yeah.
When you die, you'll know where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. You don't die alone. There
No.
was hundreds of souls there when I was talking with Jesus. I knew, I mean, they don't look like they were just, they were outlines of energy that was there. My dog was there. There was, it was, it was very peaceful. It was beautiful. I'll start crying if I talk about it too much, but I just know that it wasn't anything to be afraid of.
Okay.
Same with my near-death experiences. I was never going into a light. I just was in another dimension, and the colors were spectacular. And I've since understood as a medium that that is the fifth dimensional frequency. And this is why I said colors might end up being much brighter suddenly here where we are, because we're in the fifth dimensional frequency now, so with that permanent harmony of the ley lines, but there was no light. So it's interesting, but I never moved over. I just was in that fifth dimensional frequency, being told I had things to do still and I needed to come back, much as I did not want to.
Yes. Okay, that was great. So I appreciate both very much. Thank you, Rachel and Angie. Yeah.
Welcome. There's a question in the chat. Lucy is asking, I was wondering, can you call on someone else's guardian angels?
Potentially, yes.
Can. I mean, when I'm doing readings, I will call in that person's angels, archangels, ascended masters, spirit guides, friends and family that are, star families that are in and of God's light. I call in mine as well. So, you can work if you're working with that person. Now, if you're praying for that person, I would think you would, and you always say, like, if it's for their highest good, and because you don't want to ever like impose on what they're, is that what you're asking, Lucy? I hope. Do you have anything to add, Rachel?
It's actually a part of my practice too. If I'm going to read for somebody, I always ask for their guides and higher self to be part of it, as well as all the loving, benevolent light beings of the multiverse. I suppose if you were asking for help for yourself, I would say your guides might be a little bit offended if you were actually bypassing them and asking for somebody else's guides to come in and help, if that was the question, which I would say probably isn't. Because the guides that we have are specific to us, and they can often be through many lifetimes. They can often be part of our soul circle that we incarnate with normally. But as you go along through many, many, many incarnations over many cycles, some of those soul family members decide they just cannot do more physical experiences, and so they become part of your soul, your spirit guide group, because they can't do it anymore. And they're like our cheerleaders. They're cheering us on, and they're helping us in everything that we do, because they opted out. It was just too much and they couldn't handle it. Or they may have, ascended to a point where they just didn't need to be here anymore. But I get a lot of this when I'm reading for people, that their guides are like cheerleaders, because they just think that the person's actually who is anchoring the soul frequency in a human body on earth at the moment with everything that's going on is an absolute hero to those who are on the other side who couldn't stick it out, didn't want to.
Lucy, if you want to come on, you have to be on camera so we can put you in spotlight, or you can unmute and you can talk. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hi, Rachel. Hi.
Hello. Good to see you, Alan.
I was just gonna clarify. Rachel knows I live on a boat, and we were bringing this boat back from Melbourne to Gold Coast, and we've been in a couple of situations which were like potentially life-threatening, like really bad situations, and we had crew on board. So at that point, I started calling on, whoever's there, and then actually I call my guardian angels, but also theirs. And I don't know if I am allowed or not to do that for someone else, but to my idea, probably didn't think about doing that, and I would like to do that for them, but I don't know if that's allowed.
Well, that in that sense, in a position of danger, if you're someone who has the knowledge that is something that can help, I would say that's perfectly acceptable and appreciated. But again, I would just their highest good, because again, there might be maybe one of them was supposed to move on at that time. You just don't know. So horrible, but you know, you always qualify it with that, yeah, if it's for their highest good.
See, that's the thing I forgot. For my highest good. And
I know you
does that mean that they don't come if you don't say that?
know what that statement does. So you will still have them engage, but the statement protects you from, number one, say you said, I want to rescind all connections I have with all my spirit guides. That's not going to be for your highest good, is it? So, but you can do that. And that's a bad thing to do. That's a really not recommended thing to do, because you will just be so completely alone and unassisted. So, and it also protects you when you ask for something and then say, if that's for my highest good, it protects you from any dark entities that might be misleading you and convincing you that they're there for your benefit. So you cannot contract with a dark entity if you say, if that is for my highest good, because they will never do anything that's for your highest good. So it just cancels them out. So it's very
Yeah,
protective.
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just wondering that, and I always wondered, and I did it, and I had no one to ask about it. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Other
No
things
worries.
I do like daily when I do my protection prayer and I put my protect my energy, and I say my little prayer. I always say, um, remove obstacles and challenges in my path as I give you permission to do so, because a lot of times they can't help you if you don't give them permission. And then I say, if it's for my highest good. So that's
Yeah,
something a
Love it.
lot to remember. And sometimes, you forget in the beginning, but it's okay. You get it.
thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Lucy.
There's another question in the chat there, Angie.
What's it say, Asta? Um,
From
let's see.
Kim, I have been seeing some strange particles in the air when I connect with the water sprites, which I feel are generated by what is in the geoengineering aerosols. I have been trying to work out a way to call on the divine realms to take these back to source. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions or ideas about this?
Well, the fact that Kim is trying to transmute those frequencies or those particles by sending them back to source is brilliant. I would call on the earth whilst doing that. I think that would be the most powerful entity to actually be calling on to be making that happen. One of the things that came up in the prediction series last time we spoke, I talked about, they're just going to keep focusing on sharks and shark attacks and rah, rah, rah. And in Australia, it's just been absolutely ridiculous. It's just been every day or every week at least for months. Shark, 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 shark. And the actual reality, and apologies to anybody who's lost someone in that way, but the reality is it's a tiny, tiny percentage of the number of deaths that happen each year is to shark attacks. Now, what's actually happened recently is we had this on the south coast of South Australia, we had this weird foam that when the swimmers and surfers were going out, were getting really sick from. So the way I look at it now, at first I thought it was just they wanted us to focus on the other predators. I think they want us out of the water. I think they're trying to do something really awful to the ocean. That will also get transmuted. So that cleared up very quickly. Sometimes apparently it can also be something to do with, bacterial overgrowth or whatever, but I think it's got to do with, the chemtrails and things that they're using. So and it also makes me wonder what else is out there in the water that they don't want us to see. They don't want people along the coast at the moment. Why is that? What else could be going on? Very interesting, to the point where they don't even want the surfers out there. So I think that the knowledge of that, perhaps a lot of people were then looking at it and saying, well, let's clear this up. And it's cleared up very quickly. So just the intent of doing that, remember how powerful you are when you have that intent. That's the thing that makes this work, is recognizing your own power to call in the earth or call in, loving light entities to clean up the mess that's being made. Yeah.
That's what I do with the chemtrails. When I see them, I clear them from the sky. Rain
Brilliant.
is there. So, but the same thing, like if you need rain, you do like the rain prayer where you like go through all of the motions where you actually feel it raining, and you can make it rain. You can make it stop
Yeah.
raining. There's so much. I mean, you work with the elements. fire, air, water, earth.
Exactly what ancient people have been doing forever.
Yes.
Absolutely forever. In Australia, our original people would carefully and cleverly burn out certain areas. It would help them to catch prey, but it would also mean that they would clear up the debris so that you wouldn't get these massive bushfires. But then we weren't allowed to do that anymore because, insects and lizards and things want to live in the debris, which is fair enough. But you just get this overgrowth of undergrowth and, fallen limbs and fodder for fire. And then you get massive bushfires that we didn't have that to that degree in times gone by. Yeah. Should we probably wrap up, darlings? We've been going for a bit.
Yes, we have. We've been going for, I just looked at the time because I looked a minute ago and I was like, oh, we're doing good. And then I look now, I'm like, oh, we went over. So, well, I want to thank everybody for being here, especially Rachel. Thank you, Asta, for moderating today. So, Rachel, do you have anything coming up that you want to promote?
Yeah. I have my course coming up in April. So if anybody wants to join the course, there's still some places left. So they just contact me at www.number6thscience.com and you can enroll there.
Awesome. So that'll be it for today. April 12th, I have Doug McIntyre going to be my guest. I'm so excited to have him. I think we're going to be talking about soul contracts and Akashic records and fun stuff. So he's a wealth of knowledge. I want to thank everybody again for being here, and be sure you like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.